Good morning. This is Kelly with Made to Shine Designs, and I am doing the peony flower available on my Etsy site. And this is what you get in the kit. I've already cut some of the individual petals, but it'll come to you in these little shapes, and you can get it either in the kind of tritone kind of way that we did it here with this ombre kind of look, or you might have just gotten one color. But whichever, these are the pieces that you would have gotten. So we're going to start out. You're going to need your felt ball. This is a 30 millimeter felt ball, and then you're going to need the little circle shape, and you're going to need 5 of the smallest of the petals. So you get, let's see, you'll get some that look like this one, the bigger one, and some that look like this one, the smaller one. And so we are going to need 5 of the smaller ones, which is the one that is the 3 set. So go ahead and get those. And okay, so what we're going to do, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to glue this circle onto one side of the felt ball. Now, obviously, a circle going around, you're going to have a little bit of a gap, so you're going to need to just kind of carefully place it over there and smooth it down as best you can. This is going to just be a little bit of an underneath part of the flower, just so it kind of covers up the felt ball. The color of the felt ball, that's why you see the color of the felt ball doesn't matter at all, because it's going to be completely covered. All right, so we start out like this, and the only part of this is going to show is a tiny little bit of the center like that. So doesn't matter too much about how this is. I am going to go ahead and get a little bit more glue right here. We want that to lay down really as smoothly as we possibly can. And you see it molds really well if you just kind of do it carefully when you lay it on there. All right, so we're going to put that to the side for a second. Now, this next part is probably the trickiest part of this flower, but what we're eventually going to try to do is to cover this with overlapping petals like this. All right, so I'm just kind of laying it here unglued just so you can kind of see what we're doing. This is going to go on top with this little bit of this hole right here in the center. Now you can see that if I went ahead and tried to do that one little petal at a time, it's going to be really hard for me to get that completely spaced out perfectly, so that you don't wind up with one really overlapping a whole lot more than the other or something. So I found that the easiest way to do this is to go ahead and do it laying down onto a surface like this, or holding it in your hand, whichever, so that you can kind of see how you want it to be. And again, we've talked about this before, but you want the pieces to overlap. I'm getting them all. Okay, so you want all of them one under, one over, all the way around. And then you want to arrange them as best you can so that they go in this pattern. Now, as we're going to do this, you're going to just kind of work your round into a circle, and then you want that to be one complete piece that you're just going to be able to lay on the top of here and glue as one. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right along the edge here, just on one side, and we are going to overlap this just a little. And if you go ahead and try to lay them here, not glue, that kind of helps you to know exactly how much you need to glue to make it work out. Okay, so let's go on to the next piece. And you're kind of keeping an eye on this open section in the center here. We just want a little bit of a hole there. So kind of keep that in mind as you're going around, how that little circle in the center is looking. We don't want too much of that to show. All right, now when you get back around, and you know, I've told y'all before, it's just glue. You can pull it back apart if you don't like how they are. But when you get back to the center part, you should have that last one that you can put some glue here on this one, just as we've done. And then this one can go around and be the last one that you glue there. All right. And I give it a little bit of a tug just so there's a little bit of a contour to it so that it's easier to lay down. It doesn't have to be too much. All right, so then now we can take this piece and we can just lay it on here as one piece. And again, you're going around on a circle shape, so it's a little difficult to get it to lay down smoothly, but take your time and work your way around. You should be able to get it to lay down. Okay, try to get that hole right there in the center, and then just smooth that down. All right. Now you do not need all this extra stuff around the outside. So we're gonna go ahead and just snip those off so we don't have quite so much to have to try to glue around the around the edge of that circle. And then also it would provide a whole lot of extra bulk that we just don't need there. So I'm just gonna trim these off on the bottoms. Okay, so then you're just left with this, and you can go around and work your way around and smooth these down. Okay. Sorry, y'all, excuse my sniffles. It's a little chilly whenever you're watching this. It's actually January. I'm in Florida, so it's not like snowing outside or anything like that. But for us, it's a little chilly. It's in the 40s. All right, so just gonna press that down. Just kind of make that as smooth as you possibly can. Okay, so you're left with this. Okay, and you do not need the hole that big. That's actually a little bigger than it needs to be, but it won't really matter. But just telling you that that's not a perfect science as far as how big that hole is, so don't worry too much about that. All right, so now we're going to do the next row, which is another row of the light color. And if you just have one color, then just the smaller of the petals, the ones that are 3. And there should be 5 of those. Okay, so then for this next row, we're still gonna wrap around this ball. But what we're gonna try to do is get the petal so that it's coming up between these two. Okay, and on this row, we kind of want it to stand up. Okay, we're not trying to lay it down like that. We're getting it to kind of stand up. So where we're gonna glue it is, you know, down around the middle here, and then we'll glue it right to that side. Okay, so let's put a row of glue here. And actually, I'm gonna have to pull that back off after I do it. But remember that when you're starting out, you wanna be able to overlap where you started. So I wanna be able to keep this side not glued down. So I'm gonna let that glue without being glued down there. Let that dry, excuse me. So I leave enough room when I come back around to tuck that under. All right. So then we're going to keep going around like this, and you're just going to, this one you don't have to worry about is spacing as much, because you're just going to keep this petal about halfway to where that overlapped on the last row, and then just keep it kind of sticking up a little bit like this. All right, we're going to make it kind of stand straight up on this row. As the rows go down, or around, I'm sorry, they're going to open up some more, but for this inside section here, this row is going to be standing up. All right, and just keep working your way around. Glue about halfway across, and then notice where the last overlap is, and put it about halfway where this petal is halfway to where it overlaps. I'm trying to say that in different ways, so maybe it makes sense. It's a little difficult to say. Hope you're seeing it. That's why I like to do, rather than doing pictures and written tutorials, that's why I like to do them live. All right, so just keep working your way around that same way. And then on the last one, you will have, this one's going to go on top of this one and then tuck under that one. And then do a little bit of glue here to glue that one down. All right, so then that second row should look something like that, where you've got this row almost sticking straight up. I guess really it is sticking straight up, but still curving around that second layer. And again, let's trim off the excess down here. I just don't need all of that bulk under there. You can, if you want to glue some of these pieces a little more. That one is kind of sticking up there a little bit, just to make them secure. All right, so now we're going to your medium color. And again, you're going to need 5 of the smaller ones. Okay, so this is the color that you're going to have large ones and you're going to have small ones. So you should be able to see that which ones are the large and which ones are the small. When they're still together like this, it's the ones that have the 3. And you're going to need 5. So one of these is extra. Just depending how it was going, I may have gone ahead and just sent you the extra, or might have gone ahead and snipped off the extra. It kind of depends on if you ordered more than one, or somebody else was ordering, whatever. Okay, so then for the next one, again, this row also is gonna wind up being kind of straight up. We're not really opening up just yet. So this one, when we go to put the glue on, we're gonna put it down around here, a little bit more than halfway, and then glue it again where halfway across this petal is going to be where it overlapped on the row before. Okay. I got that a little low. I'm going to pull it up just a smidge. Okay. All right. So you can already see where that's going. I'm going to pull that side up a little bit just to leave room to make sure I can overlap that last petal underneath there. Maybe you'll do better with that, but as long as I've been doing these, I still forget a lot of times not to do the glue all the way across. Okay, you can see it's already starting to take shape. You can see where we're going with it. As long as you make sure that this petal is where the last row overlaps, you'll be fine. If you forget that and you just try to kind of eyeball it, you're probably going to wind up with your petals, running out of petals before you get all the way around. So just to be careful to remember that. Keep doing your petal where it's, oops, not that sideways, where it's halfway to where it overlapped on the last row. It's going to feel like they're a lot more spaced out. They are. And with this row still being the smaller petal, you kind of even feel that more. Okay, and then this is the last one we had. That was an extra one, remember? And if you do have an extra one in your kit and you want it to be a little fuller on this row, you could certainly do that and go ahead and just put all 6 of them on here. It's just still going to be a little bit harder to do the spacing and figure out the spacing, so be careful with that if you decide to do it that way. All right, so there we go. We got another row. I'm going to stick some more glue down inside here because there's a little bit of a gap there. Right. And then trim off. You're going to have less and less to trim off because the shape starts getting higher on the top side. All right. So now we're here. Okay, now we're going to the 4th row. For the 4th row, you're going to still be using the medium flower, but you're going to, it's going to be the larger petal. So go ahead and cut apart 5 of those petals. You see that we're going to have 3 rows of this size, or this size and this color. Now, this is the first row that you can start to kind of feel like it's opening up a little bit. So as we glue this, we're going to glue it more towards the bottom and let it start to open up. So to do that, rather than gluing it down flat, you're going to kind of glue the bottom, kind of going around the ball a little bit. So where the contour of the ball goes, because this is a bigger petal, you can go down a little bit and then let it stick up. Now, you want to make sure you measure like how far you want it to come, because you don't want it to be way up here. You don't want it to be way down here. So just try to get it about even with that row, but opening out a little more. It's still going to be, as we're going to continue that all the way through, you're going to put it on that halfway point. And again, don't glue down all the way on that one side. Leave that side open a little bit. I got that a little high. I'm going to lower it down just a smidge. Okay. There we go. And then just keep the same process. Keep spiraling around. I will go back at the end and do some glue in here to keep these, but I'm not going to do it now, just so, because I want to make sure I get them spaced out evenly around the circle. I'm not too concerned with the side parts of those petals just yet. This is obviously a very, very pretty flower. Kind of starts to look a little more realistic as you gain with your skill and can do some of these a little more difficult flowers rather than just roll ones or kind of more simple designs. And they start even looking more and more realistic. All right, so that was the last one, and so that means we're going to try to tuck that under just a smidge. And again, if they do overlap, some places will overlap more than others, but you can kind of do a little bit of glue there on that side so that those petals stay together. You want them to do that. Be careful not to get your glue too high up so that it would show. You don't want it to show. They don't overlap a whole lot, so You know, don't be concerned about that most of the time. Now this one, see, it does overlap quite a bit. So it just depends how you went around and how they're spaced apart. Some are barely overlapped at all. Some are overlapped a little more. That's okay. What you've got to remember, some people get really, really hung up on making everything completely spaced perfectly, and they think, oh, I messed up because that's overlapped more than that one. Look at a real flower. You know, real flowers in nature are not perfectly symmetrical or perfectly aligned. So when they're not aligned, they look actually probably more realistic. Like I said, now that's going to get another row of 5 in that same size and color. So I made too many of those. Sorry about that. I did 2 sets, so I've got some over here that I don't need. All right, so again, same process. We're just going to glue the very bottom, and again, from here on out, the petals are going to open out more. So they're going to go around the side. Now you don't need to worry about leaving too much open because where they're going to overlap is more up here, and we're putting glue down at the very bottom. I will go around though and kind of snip that last row to get all that extra space out of there. And I have said before in past videos, if you get a little confused about where was I with my overlapping, you can look at the bottom and it helps you to tell better. I know that that's the one that I just placed. That's the one that's on the next row up. I also think that that's a little bit too high, so it's possible that you can, if that one's kind of glued down really well. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of a snip here. And then pull that off, okay? And then put some more glue. And then I'm going to let it go down a little further. There we go. So you can kind of see like how that should be. It shouldn't really stick up real far. If you're looking at it at an angle like this way, this petal shouldn't be sticking way up. It should kind of just be even with those, but opening out more. So you may have to play a little bit with it. You may wind up pulling it off and reworking it like I just did. Kind of place it without glue first and look at it and decide where that glue should go and where it should go on here. Just take your time and keep working the rows around and outward. Outward meaning that they're opening up. The more we go around, the more it's going to feel like they're kind of laying down and opening up. Like if you get into doing felt florals at all, this is definitely a flower that you want to perfect. It's going to be one that's popular with your customers or with yourself if you're just doing it for your own pleasure. Obviously this and a rose are two that you're going to get requests for, you're going to want to do yourself. So spend some time and did I do all 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I must have had 6 petals. And again, you can look at the bottom and make sure that you did all 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I did. All right, and then if you want to, you can, if you have any that are overlapping at all, you can glue them. You can glue on up a little higher if you think that you need to. I think this one right here could use a little more on the side. You just kind of have to look at the flower and see if it seems like the petals need to, be contoured to the felt ball a little more. See, it's really taking shape now. And honestly, if you needed a smaller flower, you could stop right here. You really could stop right here. This is a nice little flower. It's still, I mean, it's not little. I shouldn't say it's little. It's still a decent sized flower. It's the size of the palm of my hand. But this flower is normally meant to be a little bit bigger. So we're going to go on. And so for the next 2 layers, we're going to do the larger petals in your, whatever your darker color is. So you're going to need 5 for each row again. And it's the same process. Just keep working. The first one is the kind of the one that's the hardest if there is a harder or easier, just to make sure that it's at the right level that you want it to be for that next row, and then keep it at that level going around. And because the petals are getting bigger and they're laying out more, they're even further apart. You see how far apart that is? That's okay. We're still going to try to put them in between where it overlapped on the row before. It really gets easier the farther you see how much quicker it's going for me. Going around, it gets easier because all you're doing is just kind of laying those down. There's not a whole lot adjusting once you make sure you get that height correct. Okay, then 5 more, and this will be the last row. And I'll tell you, if you were wanting to do this flower to be like in a bouquet, standing up in a vase, rather than it being glued to some sort of project, you would need to insert a wire stem into this felt ball. And then you can use greenery and leaves to cover up the base of this, so that you don't have this. I'm also going to show you another way to finish this. Just a second. Okay, so the last petal. Okay, that's it. So you did that center layer, then you did 1 layer of the lighter color or the smaller petals. You did another row of the smaller petals, and then from there on out there were the larger petals. So 3 rows of that medium color, 2 rows of the darkest color. Okay, so it's a really pretty little flower. And then what you might want to do on the back of here, if you're doing this to glue to a project, again, we're going to want to snip off all those extra pieces of felt that went around the edges, just to get rid of all that bulk and not have to try to cover that up. But if you're going to put it like on a project, you probably don't want this to be balled like this. You probably want it to lay flat so that you're able to glue it in. So you can just take, and you probably would need larger scissors. I've just got these here, so I'm gonna, well, actually I've got some bigger ones right here. You can actually cut this felt ball right off. Now I'm not gonna tell you it's easy to cut it off because it's big, and it's, you know, you're just gonna have to kind of work your scissors around, but you can do that. So now it just lays flat, whereas before, you know, it was rolling around. This is now a lot easier to put into a bouquet, you know, wood sign or a wreath, whatever it is that you're adding this into, a hair clip, whatever. You've now given yourself a flat surface. So there you go. That is the peony flower from my website. So I hope you enjoy making that. Send me pictures. I love to see how yours turn out. Thank you.